Every man feels it, the urge to be more, to rise above, to tap into something greater inside. But most men never do it. The few who do, they change everything. So stay with me because today I'm going to show you how. We're going live. No. We'll do it live.
This is the Come On Man podcast. And here's your host, Paul Bauer.
What a crazy week, man. What a crazy week. Thank the sweet baby Jesus that it's Friday. Guys, if you are new to the channel, my name is Paul Bauer, and I help men level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about leveling up and getting better with women is that it tends to make us better men in all areas of our lives. And I just realized I forgot to go live on TikTok again. That's what happens when I'm like rushed in the morning. You know what I mean? Anyway, today we're going to be talking about RP Thor's new book, A Superhero Inside, which is now available on Kindle and hardcover. The paperback, the last time I looked, was still in the approval process, but that should be out anytime now. We had an issue with the PDF for it, and I had to make one quick change on it. And so as soon as they approved it, Glenn Lawrence had to go back in there and upload it again. And so that's sort of what's holding things up. But, you know, it's working itself out. For whatever reason, it's taking longer than usual to get approved. All right. In order to go live for TikTok, I have to do like all this stuff like with a green screen or whatever. It's kind of stupid. But anyway, we're live now. We're going live on TikTok. Hey, TikTok. TikTok's joined us. Anyway, so if you guys are new to the channel, again, like I said before, my name is Paul Bauer, and I help men level up and get better with women. And the funny thing about doing that is that it makes us better men in all areas of our lives. All right, guys, look around. Most men today are lost. They've been told to play it safe, to be nice, to suppress their fire. And what has that gotten them? Empty relationships, no respect, no purpose. Society has neutered men. The world teaches you to be passive, to wait your turn, to beg for what you should be claiming. And that's why most men will never feel what it's like to truly be powerful, because they're waiting for permission that will never come. But here's the truth. There's a superhero inside of you. And today we're unleashing him. RP Thor's The Superhero Inside is not just a book. It's a battle plan to take back your power, to reclaim the dominance, the presence, and the unstoppable mindset that separates the extraordinary men from the rest of the herd. But before we get into it, guys, do be sure to like, subscribe, hit those notifications. I do have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday without fail. And if you guys would be so kind as to sound off in the chat today, I want to hear from you. And if you guys are watching on TikTok, come on over to my YouTube channel and then sound off in the chat. That way I can bring this up in the chat. We can have a conversation. Tell you what. And then, guys, if you are finding value in these episodes, do consider sending a super chat that helps support the show, probably more than anything else. All right, guys. So we're talking about RP Thor's new book today, A Superhero Inside. Drop the link here. I highly recommend you guys go get that. So the first thing we're going to talk about is why this book is a game changer for men. Okay. So it's a part of the Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence series. And the goal of this is really to shape a new generation of dominant men. If you guys have ever read the book Boy Crisis by Warren Farrell, it's a very good book. It really outlines the masculinity crisis we're having in the West, right? How masculinity has been considered toxic or labeled as toxic. A lot of boys aren't raised to be men anymore. A lot of boys are raised by single mothers or through the education system, which is 99% women. And they just don't have a lot of good male role models around them. And so a lot of boys are raised not knowing who they're supposed to be, right? Ryan Stone says it really well. We're raising our boys to be defective women, essentially. Well, the problem with Boy Crisis, and it really outlines the problem here, is that Warren Farrell is a liberal. he's a very left-leaning guy, and so his prescriptions in the book are terrible. Like, they're basically asking us as a society to double down on what's got us here in the first place, right? Like, oh, we need to allow boys to be more vulnerable. We need to teach boys to be more vulnerable. We need to allow boys to have more feminine type roles, right? We need to, as a society, we need to not chastise men who want to be stay-at-home dads and stuff, right? And it's like, it does nothing to solve the situation. It basically doubles it down. You can't change women's evolutionary wiring for what they find attractive. You know what I mean? So then all these women are raised under the same programming as all of us. And they're taught, yeah, these men should be more accommodating, more soft, more emotionally vulnerable, and like all this kind of stuff. And so women are like, yeah, that's what it should be. I mean, that's what I was raised. But then when guys do that stuff, women are like, huh, what? Like, this is disgusting. Guys don't make it further in their careers. They have all these problems because they don't have the dominant masculine presence they need to succeed in life and in love. Right? So RP Thor said, screw that. Screw that. The cure to the masculinity crisis is to teach men how to be men again. It's not to double down on making them soft. Okay. So he wrote a book a couple of years ago now called A Dominant Masculine Presence. Phenomenal book. Very good. I highly recommend it. I've read it twice now. You guys can get it on Amazon and Audible. And so Thor wrote that. And then shortly after he wrote that, he came down with brain cancer. Right. And so he wanted to write more books in the series. He can't physically do that himself, but he came up with this genius idea last year. He got together with a whole bunch of us in the manosphere and said, hey guys, I want you guys to write books based on the 7 skills I outlined in A Dominant Masculine Presence, right? The 7 skills of a dominant masculine presence. They all start with the letter P. So I like to call them the 7 Ps of a dominant masculine presence. And so when he asked me to do it, I said, yeah, sure, man. That sounds great. So I wrote the first book in the series. It's called Psychology Paradigm. All right. I've done a whole entire series based on my book. If you guys go back through my YouTube channel, you'll find the series I did on it, but you might as well just go get the book. In fact, go get all these books. You can collect them all. Thor's book is now, and I'm saying this, it's now officially the 4th book in the series, right? Glenn Lawrence released a book too, but he didn't follow the instructions. He didn't use the right cover. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not canon. Fuck that guy. Fuck that Glenn Lawrence bastard. Until he fixes his cover, it is not canon. So Thor's book is officially the 4th book in the series. Anyway, I dropped a link to it in the chat there. So Thor's book is called A Superhero Inside, and it sort of deviates from what the rest of us are doing. And Thor can do that because he's a god amongst men, and this is his fucking project. Okay. But instead of writing about one of the 7 Ps, he came up with his own sort of thing. And this is more along the lines of identity, developing an identity. And so his book is called A Superhero Inside. Okay. Now, if you guys don't know about Thor, Thor's an interesting guy in the space, right? I wrote the foreword. I wrote the foreword for his book. And I tell the story about how I met Thor. I met Thor because he was just another guy in the comments. I think I was tuning into Aaron Clary's channel once, and this was, man, maybe a year after Thor's wife, Missy, had her really life-changing car accident that basically left her in a wheelchair. And I just remember Clary talking about, I saw Thor was in the comments, and Clary brought up one of his chats or super chats, and then he told the audience about Thor's struggle with his wife Missy and how you guys needed to donate to his GoFundMe to help his wife Missy and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, he's just a guy in the community. And then I noticed that he was commenting on some of my stuff on Instagram. And I was like, okay, Thor's just, one of those guys that we see. If you guys are content creators, you start seeing the same people in the chats in all the different, streams you do. So you start recognizing people in the space. You recognize fans, right? And I thought, oh, yeah, Thor's just another fan. And then one day I happened to tune into Fresh and Fit, which I don't typically watch Fresh and Fit, but I happened to tune into this one episode, and Thor was sitting there. Thor's sitting there at the table with the Fresh and Fit panel with a whole bunch of guys in the space. I think it was during one of Donovan Sharp's CME conferences, and they were having it in Florida. So I think all the speakers that were on the CME panel were there. So like all the usual suspects were there, like Rolo was there, MLD was there. I think Mr. Lucario was there, like a bunch of other well-known guys in the space were all there, and there was Thor. And I was like, wait a second. That's that RP Thor guy I see in the comments all the time. What the hell is he doing on Fresh and Fit? At the time, I actually had a goal of going on Fresh and Fit as a guest, because I was like, oh, I was trying to promote the podcast more. I had a goal of getting on Rule Zero too, if you guys didn't know. Although I just wanted to be a guest on the panel. I didn't know that they were going to actually invite me to be on the panel permanently. But that's how Thor and I really first got connected, was with Rule Zero, because Rolo invited me on Rule Zero. And then like a month later, Thor came on the show. And I remember Rolo going, hey, do you guys know Thor? And you guys all want him to come on the panel. And I just remember like, yeah, Clary's like, oh, hell yeah, Thor's a great guy. And everyone knew Thor, right? So Thor, then I get to know Thor, right? He invites me on the Dragon Ship. I thought that was going to be a one-off type thing. I ended up being a regular on the Dragon Ship. Now I spend 6 hours every fucking Saturday doing live streaming with the boys. But Thor and I really started, spending a lot of time together, started hanging out a lot. I really started, he was helping me with my courses. I didn't even realize it, but he was making courses for John MLD's programs. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like here I am thinking Thor's just an average guy in the space, and he's not. He's a very prominent guy in the space, and he's just the kind of guy that doesn't need to talk about it. He just shows you with his actions and his presence who he is as a person. And so that kind of thing really stood out to me, right? And so it was a major shock right after he did the audio for my book, my first book, Everything I Wish I Knew When I Was 18. Thor did the narration for it on Audible. It was right after that we found out that he had brain cancer and that he was getting ready to go into this sort of thing. And he's been fighting it ever since. And he's still putting up the biggest fight of his life. Right. But he still stays optimistic. In fact, getting this book together and finishing this book was fucking challenging for him. But what he realized is he couldn't type it out himself. So a lot of it, when he gave it to me, he handed it off to me. It was all audio. It was talk to text, right? And you guys, have you ever done talk to text? Do you know how hard that is? Like talk to text always fucks things up, right? Well, Thor wrote a whole book by dictating it, and then he handed me the dictation, and I'm like, wow, like this is bad, right? And so he recognized that in order to get it ready for publishing, he is going to need some help, which I think is hard for Thor. I think it's hard for Thor to ask for help, but he reached out to me. He said, hey man, I need help. I need help getting this ready for publishing. I need help getting it formatted. I'm going to need help, getting the book cover right and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, I'm happy to do it. Happy to do it, man. And then I asked him if I could write the foreword for it. And he said, yeah, definitely. So I wrote the foreword for it. And then I got to work on getting it formatted and getting it legible and getting it easy to read and making it flow better. But goddamn, this is a good fucking book, guys. You guys are going to really like it. We're going to get into it more today. So this book is a little bit different from other self-development books that you'll find, okay? It's not about finding yourself, right? It's about forging yourself, which you have to understand, men don't find themselves. We don't go find themselves. Men have to build themselves. Rollo Tomasi talks about this in the Player's Handbook. Men don't find themselves. We have to build themselves, right? Women are born with their inherent sexual value. Like they are born, and as long as they're not fat and they're relatively attractive, people love them unconditionally. They will protect them. They will do anything for them because they are going to make the next, generation of humans, right? That's their inherent value that they're born with. Men, we have to become something. We have to develop ourselves. We have to learn skills. We have to prove ourselves daily. We have to go out and struggle. And that's our burden of performance as men. Okay. And so Thor's book talks about that, about creating the right mindset to do that, about what you need to do to become the best possible version of yourself. Right. And so he's got this, he talks about this in chapter 2. And I just narrated chapter 2. I'm doing the audiobook for Thor 2. I told him, hey man, I'll do the audiobook for you too. So I'm doing the audiobook for him. I just recorded chapter 2 yesterday, which is all about the Übermensch. The Übermensch. You're like, what the fuck is that? Exactly. The Übermensch is a concept from Friedrich Nietzsche, right? Friedrich Nietzsche was a sort of a philosopher. He's the guy who said that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. He came up with this concept called the Übermensch. And so Thor wanted a whole chapter dedicated to the concept of the Übermensch, right? And what is the Übermensch? The Übermensch, the way it's described in the book, is basically like the super version of yourself, right? The highly evolved version of yourself. A guy who realizes that all of your beliefs and values that you've been programmed with in your life are not necessarily your values or your beliefs. They were given to you. They were programmed into you by society, by your friends, by your family. And so you need to sit down and figure out, why do you believe these things? Are these things that you truly believe, or are these things that were told to you, right? And then anything that was told to you that you don't truly value or don't truly believe, you need to reject it. So you need to basically take a inventory of your values and your beliefs and figure out what's truly serving you, what you truly believe in, what's truly important to you. Anything else you need to reject. And this is where you now come up with your own code that you follow without fail. It doesn't matter if it's not convenient to follow the code. It doesn't matter if people disagree with your code. You're going to fucking follow the code. This is your code that you develop for yourself and standards that you set for yourself, right? Like, you do not accept weakness and shit like that, right? So that's the kind of stuff that Thor talks about. And some of the concepts that he talks about are basically how most men are controlled by society. You don't even realize that you're doing it. Like, you don't even realize that society has a hold on you, and has a control over you, until you sit down and start really figuring out, is this true or not? Why do I believe this? And really question everything. Most men follow societal expectations without question, living passive, unfulfilled lives. The Übermensch recognizes this conditioning and breaks free, right? You start questioning everything, and you start going, why do I believe this? And then it's just like waking up from the Matrix, right? You'll find that Nietzsche was quite red-pilled for his time, before red pill was even a thing, right? The Übermensch creates his own path. He rejects external validation, forges his own identity, and reshapes his environment to align with his vision, right? What does this sound like to you? If you guys are red pill guys, you've been studying all this stuff, what does this sound like to you? Sounds like frame, doesn't it? Sounds like frame. Weakness and self-doubt are learned. These are concepts from the Übermensch chapter, right? Weakness and self-doubt are learned. So men are trained to suppress ambition, doubt themselves. The Übermensch destroys self-doubt through decisive action. Basically, This is where you choose your path and you're going to fucking go after it no matter what. This is where you create goals for yourself that you're going to go after no matter what. It doesn't matter if people tell you you can't do it. Doesn't matter if people tell you that you won't succeed. You're going to fucking do it. And you're going to find a way. Right. I like to call these C-type goals, right? You have A-type goals, B-type goals, C-type goals. C-type goals are goals that you don't know how you're going to do it, but you're going to do it anyway. You're going to find a way, right? It's not your job to figure out how it's going to happen. You just know it's going to happen, right? This is an Ubermensch type belief system, right? You're going to burn the old script and create a new code. So to evolve, a man must question and eliminate limiting beliefs and replace them with his own unshakable values, right? And you want to live by actions, not words. So true transformation comes from embodying values through disciplined action, commanding respect, and becoming a force in the world, okay? So how does this book give you the exact mindset framework to go from an average man to the force of nature? Well, one of the things that he wants to try to do in this book is reprogram you for strength, right? Eliminate self-doubt, weak conditioning, replace hesitation with decisive action, right? A lot of you guys, and I've worked with a lot of guys, a lot of my coaching clients are like this. Some of them are still like this. They just can't shake it, right? But a lot of guys over-evaluate things, right? They get analysis paralysis. They overthink things instead of just picking a path and going with it. Ryan Stone talks about it in Frame. He talks about this concept called an OODA loop, right? Observe, orient, decide, act. Having that type of mindset where you make a decision and you just go with it will make you a more successful person in life. If you ever read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, he talks about how successful men make decisions very quickly and change their minds rarely, if ever, right? Guys who hesitate, guys who hem and haw, guys who have to think about things for 3 days at a time before they come up with a plan, they end up just staying stuck where they're at because they can't make a fucking decision to move forward, right? Just go with your gut, make a decision, move forward, decisive action, right? That's what one of the things that Thor's trying to teach you in this book. You're going to forge an unshakable identity. You're going to reject societal programming and build a mindset rooted in strength, power, and purpose. That's what this book is designed to do. Get you thinking along those lines. Strength, power, and purpose. And mastery through action, right? This is going to be a major concept through the book. Taking action, taking decisive action, right? Actually, when you get an idea for something, you go with it, right? You run with it. So you want to focus on disciplined action, commanding presence, and leading with confidence. And that's what this book teaches you how to do. All right, man, I went off on some tangents there, but guys, follow me on social media. The links are in the description. Hey guys, thanks for hitting that like button on TikTok. I appreciate you guys. Head on over to the YouTube channel and sound off in the chat there. All right, guys, I'm on all the good platforms. Follow me there. The links are in the description. Get on the email list.comeonmanpod.com. Get my free ebook, She's Made You Weak. It talks about the betatization process and why attraction tends to erode in the first place. Guys, get my books. My books are available at books.comeonmanpod.com. I have a book in the Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence series. It's called Psychology Paradigm. It's all about rewiring your mind to have more of a dominant masculine presence. Very similar to Thor's book, although Thor's book is about creating an identity for yourself. And this one is about reprogramming your subconscious to start thinking and acting like a more dominant masculine man. Let me play a commercial for my book. I don't have one for Thor's book, but let me play a commercial for my book and then we'll get back to the topic.
Have you ever felt like something's holding you back in your relationships? Like you're always on the back foot, struggling to connect with women? You're not alone. Many men are taught to be weak, to defer, to play small around women by their upbringing, by society, by the very world that shaped them. But what if you could break free from the invisible chains that have held you back? What if you could rewrite the script, reprogram the paradigm that's been running your life? This is your chance to step into the man you were always meant to be. in The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence Psychology Paradigm by Paul Bauer, the first book in RP Thor's groundbreaking series. You'll learn how to understand and transform the paradigms that have shaped your life. You'll discover how to develop a dominant masculine presence, one that commands respect, inspires trust, and brings fulfillment to your relationships. Don't wait for life to change on its own. Take control. Order your copy of The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence Psychology Paradigm now on Amazon. Available in hardcover, paperback, or on Kindle. This is more than a book. It's your roadmap to a life of purpose, strength, and success. Make the decision today. Reprogram your life and step into the man you were meant to be.
All right. And guys, here's a link to Thor's book on Amazon again. Drop that in the chat there. Man, we got a whole bunch of people in the house. CW says, good morning, gents. Good morning, CW. Kamal says, one sentence that's stuck with me is seek your own approval. Yeah, that's a good motto. Michelle says, good morning. Hey, good morning, Michelle. We don't usually get a lot of women in the chat. Marty, hey, what's up, man? He says, girls would rather be with a fresh out of jail felon than some feminine guy. That is true. That is true. Oh, hey, and Ray says, good morning, everyone. I'm really looking forward to reading Thor's new book. Yes. Yes. You guys are going to love it, man. I gotta try to record chapter 3 today, if I can. So we're going to talk about how to discover your superhero inside, right? Just very high level. I really do want you guys to get the book. And men and women could read this too. It's really geared towards men, but women could read this too. They wouldn't be offended by it. But I'll tell you what, ladies, if you have teenage boys, get them The Essential Skills of a Masculine Presence series. Okay. Be honest with yourself, right? You're going to do the best you can, ladies. I get it, but you're not a man. You can't possibly teach your sons how to be a man. All right. If you are a single mom and you're raising boys and you want to teach them to have more of a dominant masculine presence in a good positive, talk about a positive dominant masculine presence that will serve them in life, that will make them successful, that will make them have healthy relationships. Get this entire book series for them and make them study that shit. All right. Guys, remember, smashing like is alpha. Okay. Thank you, Stream Elements. All right. The power of inner monologue. All right. So this is really important. How your self-talk, your self-talk is the difference between being weak or unstoppable. A guy who wrote a book in the series, Rafe D'Antor, he wrote a book called Power Frame Identity. It's the second book in the series. Rafe also wrote a small book called self-talk, right? It's a whole book on self-talk, but you guys don't even realize how important your self-talk is. Your self-talk is essentially affirmations. It's essentially self-hypnosis. When you say anything about yourself, you internalize it. You actually store that in your subconscious mind. It becomes a belief, right? So if you always say, God, I'm so stupid, right? Like you make a mistake and your gut reaction is go, I'm so stupid. That's negative self-talk. You're actually programming that. You're holding on to it because it's also backed by an emotion at that point. When you're saying it out of frustration, anything that's repeated and backed by an emotion gets programmed in your subconscious as a paradigm. Okay. That's what my book's all about. But Thor talks about this, how you need to change your inner monologue. You need to recognize when you're being negative about yourself, when you're saying negative things about yourself, and change that, because that negative self-talk is going to keep you stuck where you're at. If you're having a lot of problems right now, if you're having a lot of monetary problems right now, I guarantee your self-talk about money is you're talking about how you're broke all the time, how you can't afford anything all the time, how money doesn't grow on trees, right? You have a negative paradigm around money. We had a guy in Beer Club who recently was having money problems, and he had to leave Beer Club. And I'll tell you what, if you guys can't afford a $10 a month men's group because you're having money problems, I agree. You have bigger fish to fry, right? You've got bigger fish to fry. But one of the things I noticed is right before he left the group, he was talking about how he was broke, right? He says, "Oh, I'm broke," and and he had all these money problems. He had like an overdraft and all this kind of shit. It's just like you'll find that guys that have those types of problems talk about how they're broke, how they have no money, they have a scarcity mindset around money, right? It's almost like the law of attraction is real. But so Thor invites you in the book to change your mindset, change your inner monologue. Instead of saying negative stuff about how you're broke and money's hard to come by and stuff like that, right? A good way that Bob Proctor, who's one of my mentors, says it is, I'm rich. I'm rich. I'm just a little short on cash right now. Right? He's like, you were born rich. You might just be a little short on cash right now. That's it, right? But you're otherwise rich. That's a more positive way of looking at your situation than broke. I have no money. I can't afford anything, right? So I'm saying I can't afford that right now. You say, how can I afford that? What can I do to save up for that, right? You start thinking more along the positive lines, and you'll find that circumstances around money start changing. Same thing goes with all areas of your life, right? So Thor talks about that, about about having more of a positive mindset around your strength and your capabilities instead of thinking why you can't do something, why you can do something, right? Thor also invites you. That's what chapter 3 is about. That's what I need to try to record today if I can. It's all about naming your hero, right? Because the whole concept of this book is creating an identity for yourself of a superhero. You have this internal superhero that you're developing. And how can you have a superhero if you don't have a superhero's name, right? So when you give it a name, when you give yourself a name, you identify with it, right? And once you identify with something, it becomes a part of who you are fundamentally. So he invites you to think of a superhero name for yourself, right? You need to create your own identity and step into your highest version of yourself. Now, this is great because if you think about it, right? Mentally picture this in your head. Picture Clark Kent, right? Clark Kent, I mean, he can do it. He's physically capable of saving people as Clark Kent, but he doesn't, right? He purposefully acts like he's weak. He purposefully acts like he's, kind of a nerdy guy. He's socially awkward, right? But when the time comes, when a crisis strikes, he rips open his shirt and he's fucking Superman. Okay. That's where you want to be. If you're in a negative situation, you're in a crisis, you're in a situation that requires you to take decisive action and you're afraid to do it, you call on the superhero inside because your superhero inside will fucking do it. He's not afraid, right? So this is the concept here. But how are you going to call on this superhero if you don't give it a name, right? So you got to give it a name first. And then one of the, of course, it's Thor, right? So a lot of the superhero names that he gives you are sort of Viking-esque, or they're gods or deities of other religions. Like one of them is the Japanese god of thunder and lightning, of course, because Thor is the Viking god of thunder and lightning. You know how Thor is. You want to learn how to have a mastery of conversations, wielding words like a sword to command attention, respect, and influence. Thor talks about this a little bit in his first book, but he gets into it in this book too, about how to have the proper cadence when you talk, about how to talk, slow things down a little bit so that they mean things, how to have proper pauses to draw people in, that sort of thing, right? You want to learn how to command respect and attention just through your very presence and how you carry yourself and how you talk. Thor shows you how to do that in the book. And then he talks about the will to power, right? The real reason most men never reach their potential and how to break free. So what is that? Well, it's relentless self-mastery, right? The drive to shape reality, overcome obstacles, and take full control of one's life. If you fully believe and you adopt the belief and really get in alignment with the belief that you make things happen for yourself, that you create your own destiny, that you can manipulate the universe around you to achieve your goals, life stops happening to you and you start making life happen for you. As soon as that happens, it's weird. It's weird, right? So that's one of the things that you're going to do with this book is realize that you create your own reality. You create your own circumstances. And if you make, if bad things happen, you recognize that you take ownership of it, right? You recognize that you somehow attracted this into your life. What are you going to do about it? You don't beat yourself up over it. Like, what can I learn from this? And how do I move forward? What can I do about it? Right? That's the kind of mentality you develop with this book. You also reject weakness completely, right? You eliminate passivity, fear, social programming to build this unshakable concept or confidence, unshakable confidence. Now, one of the things that, this is going to be a challenge for everybody. I think a vast majority of people are going to read this book, listen to the words and go, yeah, that sounds good. But in the moment, in practice, it's going to be fucking hard. It's going to be hard to eliminate passivity. It's going to be hard to eliminate procrastination. I'm like the worst procrastinator in the world, right? There's shit I know I need to do, and I will like purposefully put it off, right? And it's a lot of it's because I'm just like, I build up in my mind how sucky it's going to be to do it and how I don't like doing it. And then so I just find any reason to not do it, right? That's the kind of shit that we want to try to eliminate, but none of us are perfect, right? And so recognize that in yourself and just be like, I'm going to work on it, right? I'm going to work on it. But you want to try to eliminate passivity, fear, social programming, and become have unshakable confidence. And then, like I said before, a very common theme in the book is going to be action. So power through action. The power comes from conquering one's own limitations, not trying to control others, right? You can't change other people. You can only change yourself. You can only control what you do, how you show up, your own actions. But you also got to understand too, that if you don't take actions and move forward and actually start doing something, start applying the shit from the book, you're not doing anything, right? You can read all these books, and then if you don't do anything with them, it becomes mental masturbation. It's pointless, right? So you got to take decisive action on these things if you're going to change, if you're going to actually have that superhero inside. All right. Guys, join the beer club, beer.comeonmanpod.com. It's a good group of dudes. We have about 50 guys in there. They're all swapping notes. They're all leveling up. They're all trying to make themselves the best version of themselves. And they also have the slickest memes I've ever seen. We're going to have our next meetup next Thursday on the 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you've been thinking about joining the group, you want to join one of our calls, I would say wait until Monday, join the group. There's a free trial for 7 days. Get in, join the call, get involved in the Telegram community, see if you like it or not. If you don't like it, no problem. It's not for everybody. You can leave the group anytime within that 7-day period and not get charged, and you don't have to worry about it. But most guys join the group, they join the call, and they want to stay in the group because they recognize the value, but the real value is in the Telegram community. And then guys, if you want to work with me one-on-one, if your relationship's going downhill, you don't want to get divorced, you want to actually save your family, you actually take your vows seriously, but you recognize that if you don't do something now, that your relationship is going to end up in divorce court, book a call with me. Go to call.fixeddadbedrooms.com right now, okay? It's not going to get better on its own. And guys, do consider sending super chats. I didn't mean to click that button, but do that. All right, guys. Again, here's the link to Thor's book. And if you guys are watching on TikTok right now, if you look on Amazon for The Superhero Inside by RP Thor, you'll find his book there. But I'll drop a link in the chat to his Kindle edition. If you guys prefer hardcover, I think that's available too. I don't know. Let me look to see if the paperback got approved finally. Let me take a look here. The paperback's still not available. So the hardcover and Kindle's edition is available. And then the audio version, I'm working on it. I've recorded up to chapter 2. So there's a foreword, there's an introduction, there's chapter 1, and there's chapter 2. So I've recorded 4 chapters and the intro credits. I still have 9 more chapters to go. So if you guys are waiting for Audible, it should be out in the next month sometime, I think. Because once I'm done recording it, then it's got to go through a 14 or 10 to 14 day approval process through ACX, which is Audible's company. And then once that's approved, then it'll be available on the Audible edition. All right, the final transformation. Embracing hardship. All right. One of the things that the book talks about is embracing hardship, right? Why pain is necessary to forge a powerful man. One of the things that Thor talks about in the book is how transformation cannot possibly happen without a little bit of pain and discomfort, right? You have to go through challenge and adversity to become the superhero inside. Like, look at any hero's journey story out there. Look at Star Wars. Right? Star Wars, like A New Hope, the first movie that ever came out in theaters anyway. It's technically like episode 4, but the first Star Wars movie that ever came out, it's basically the hero's journey. It's your typical hero's journey story of a guy who was born less than, and he's got to go through adversity and trials to become a Jedi, right? He's got to, you see these stories all the time of a guy who's like a poor peasant, and then he's got to go through all these trials and tribulations, and he becomes a fucking knight or a king or, someone like that, right? That stuff doesn't just get handed to you, right? You have to go through challenges. So if you recognize that, you stop avoiding the challenges and you start looking forward to it and you embrace it. You embrace the suck. Right? As like the special forces would say, you embrace the suck, because you either come out better, you'll always come out better for it, right? But you either win or you learn something, right? Lateral thinking and problem solving. So one of the things that Thor tries to teach in the book is how to outsmart obstacles instead of being crushed by them, right? How to be more strategic, in your thinking. This is a good skill to have, right? Because a lot of guys, man, they get too in their heads, and they can't solve problems, and they end up just getting buried by them, right? A lot of guys end up, zeroing out and self-deleting and stuff like that. But instead, you want to develop more of a lateral thinking and problem solving ability, so you don't ever get there. You don't worry about it. You're like, oh, how do I fix this, right? And then Thor talks about the power of presence, right? Why your physical and mental presence dictate your success in all areas of your life. I say this a lot, man. A lot of people judge you and they interact with you based on your physical presence, right? I think they say out there that 95% of our communication is done through subtext, right? Your body language and your tone that you're picking up. It certainly is that way with women. Right? Women really pick up on the subtext and not necessarily the words coming out of your mouth. That's why whenever you're in an argument with a woman, if she doesn't like your tone, she immediately checks out, and then she makes the whole argument about your tone. I don't like your tone, sir. Right? And you're like, would you just listen to the words coming out of my mouth? She can't listen because your tone is showing all this insecurity and frustration and all this kind of stuff, and she tunes out. So if you can control that, control your presence, have more mental frame, think before you speak, that sort of thing. Get your emotions in check before, so that you can respond without reacting. All that kind of stuff goes to your presence, right? Also, your body language is important. So Thor talks about all that kind of stuff. Another thing that Thor talks about in this book that Aaron Clary's going to fucking hate is Thor actually subscribes to affirmations and visualization. Every one of my books has talked about affirmations at some level. And every book that Aaron Clary's read and done a review on, he's shit on it. He's absolutely shits on it. But there's a reason why we talk about affirmations and visualization. It's because it works, right? As a master NLP practitioner, I know that it works, right? What you're doing with affirmations, it's not about being Stuart Smalley and being like, doggone it, I'm good enough and people like me. Although you can do that. Like if you're someone who's insecure and you think that no one likes you, if you tell yourself everyone likes you, eventually you're going to believe it. Okay. It's not fucking woo woo. It's psychology. So Thor talks about affirmations and visualization, right? How to program your subconscious to make dominance your default setting, right? So Thor touches on it in his book. If you guys really want to go into it, my psychology paradigm book that's 100% what the book's about, the whole book, right? But the affirmations and visualization are important, right? And visualization is kind of cool because your mind can't tell the difference between what's real and what you imagine. So if you can visualize yourself being a certain way, your subconscious will start to believe it's real and you'll start acting that way, right? Your actions are caused by your habits, your paradigms, right? You're the way you think subconsciously. Your subconscious thoughts cause your actions. Those actions cause reactions. Those reactions cause your results in life. So if you're not getting the results you want in your life, you have to change this up here. And that's where affirmations and visualization come in. There's other ways of doing it. You know, like one thing that I like doing is scripting in the morning. It's almost a combination of both, right? If you sit down in the morning with a notebook, spend about 10 minutes writing out a story of your life in the future, the way you want it to be, but in the present tense, as if it's already happened. And you just write it out, right? You talk about all the things you're doing, the trips you're going on, how you're interacting with people, how people are responding to you. You're going to start visualizing it, right? You're going to start painting these word pictures in your head. You're going to start believing it, okay? That repetition, doing it every day, 10 minutes a day, is going to cause that to really seep into your subconscious mind and create a new paradigm, okay? So Thor talks about that in his book too. And then the final step, becoming the hero in your own life, right? No one's coming to save you. You either step up or you fade into irrelevance. This is where you stop blaming people. You stop hoping that someone's going to come and teach you stuff. Like you go out and you're active. Like if you need to learn something, no one's going to come and just show it to you, right? Like you have to seek out knowledge. You have to take action and go towards what you want. You have to make that move forward to achieve your goals in life. No one's going to just hand shit to you, right? And you got to stop blaming other people for the obstacles in your life and realize that you're in control of everything, right? So take some extreme ownership with all of that kind of stuff. And then I recommend, Thor doesn't talk about it in the book, but I talk about it in the foreword. I recommend, just like with my last two books, if you really want this to seep into your subconscious and become a part of who you are, if you really want to internalize the information in this book, my books, any book that you really want to truly absorb and make that what the information in the book a part of who you are and a part of like the actions you take on a daily basis, you need to read that book multiple times, right? So in the foreword of Thor's book, I invite you to listen to it on Audible or read it on Kindle or paperback or whatever multiple times, because the more you listen to it or read it, the more you're going to retain. We only retain about 10% of the information we read or listen to. So if you truly want to master it, you have to at least listen to it or read it 10 times, right? That mathematically, that makes sense, right? But more importantly to that, what you'll find is that when you listen to a book on repeat, when you read a book on repeat, it actually seeps into your subconscious and starts reprogramming your subconscious. You start developing what Thor's talking about in this book. Like, you don't have to sit down and do the affirmations. You don't have to sit down and do journaling or whatever, any of the other shit that we talk about in these books. All you have to do is listen to the book multiple times, and you'll find you'll start acting in a way that aligns with the book. It's fascinating how that works. It's fascinating how that works. If you ever, like what I mentioned, Bob Proctor before, right? He's one of my mentors. Someone handed him Think and Grow Rich when he was, I don't know, a teenager. He was working at a fire station. He says he owed $8,000 and only made $4,000 a year, right? And this guy handed him Think and Grow Rich, and he started reading it on repeat. And then a couple years later, or maybe a year later, he started a floor cleaning business that ended up blowing up, and he ended up, running this company that was operating in 3 different countries, right? The United States, Canada, and England. And he was making millions of dollars running a floor cleaning business. And what he was doing at that time was he was listening to Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret on record. He was listening to a record of The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, which has a lot of the same concepts as Think and Grow Rich. A lot of similar concepts. And what he realized, because he was in a gambling casino one time, and he was just blowing all this money, and he was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'll just make more money. Like, it doesn't matter, right? He developed this mindset that he's got an unlimited supply of money coming to him, so he might as well blow it. But he just couldn't. It just stuck in his craw. He couldn't figure out how a guy like a nobody could go from nothing and being broke to a multi-million-dollar business owner. And what he realized was, oh, fuck, I've been reading Think and Grow Rich and listening to The Strangest Secret on repeat for like the last 5 years. That's the change. That's the difference. I've just been listening to this over and over again, right? And reading this stuff over and over again. And that's what made him a multimillionaire. So he decided to sell that business and go work with Earl Nightingale with the was it Nightingale Cohen company. They have all sorts of self-help, audiobooks and shit and programs. And he went to go study under Earl Nightingale because he's like, I got to learn why this worked, right? And so that's what really forced him on the path of becoming Bob Proctor, one of the leading guys in the self-help space, right? Well, that's why I invite you guys to read Thor's book and my books and any book that you truly value and you really want to internalize the concepts in those books. Read them multiple times, okay? But that's all I got. Definitely get Thor's book. I'll drop a link to it again here in the chat. It's his second book. The audiobook is on the way. Should be out here in the next month or so. And you guys are really going to like it. I really want to make sure I do Thor justice with the audiobook. And if you guys have read or listened to Psychology Paradigm on audio, if you guys have listened to Get Her to Fuck You Again on audio, and you liked my narration, you're probably going to like Thor's narration because I pretty much read everything the same. I try to put a lot of inflection on it. I try to put a lot of passion into the things I'm reading and the things I'm saying. So hopefully you guys really like the audiobook. All right. All right, guys, that's all I got. Tune into Rule Zero tomorrow. I'm not sure who's hosting. I won't be there. My son has a track meet, so I'm not going to be there. I don't even know if we can call this the Dragon Ship, but I'll say this. Tune into Dragon Ship right after that. Normally we broadcast Dragon Ship on all of our channels. But Glenn Lawrence wanted to take the Dragon Ship time and do a fundraiser for Thor, right? Was it a year or two ago? I think maybe it was last year. Last year, he created a GoFundMe to help fund Thor and Missy. Thor's battling cancer. Missy's basically wheelchair bound. And the thing is now that Thor's got cancer, Thor can't take care of Missy anymore. Thor was her 100% live-in caretaker. And now with the cancer, he can't take care of her either. So Glenn Lawrence has literally been living with Thor for the last month and a half or so. He's taking care of both of them. And he's not qualified to do it, right? We need professional help. So the fundraiser for Thor, does Thor have kids? Yes, Thor does. Thor has several kids. Yeah. I don't know if they make enough to support them either, but healthcare in America is expensive, Birkin. So anyway, so we need professional care for Thor and Missy. The GoFundMe never reached its goal last year, so it's still going around. We're trying to get to the goal, and so Glenn had the idea of doing a 24-hour live stream starting tomorrow at the normal Dragon Ship time. But instead of coordinating with Huds and I and scheduling it through Thor's StreamYard, which streams to all of our channels, he scheduled it himself, and it's on his channel. So I think it's only going to be streamed to his channel. I don't know. Like, we asked him if we could stream to our channels too. He hasn't responded to that. I don't know. It's Glenn's show. So tune into what would normally be the Dragon Ship. Go to Glenn Lawrence's channel on Saturday and tune into that. I'll be there for the first few hours, and then Nurse Chick and I have a hot date Saturday. And then Nurse Chick and I are both going to show up Sunday morning for like a couple of hours. So probably between 10 a.m. and noon Eastern time on Sunday, Nurse Chick and I will be on the show. So if you guys have ever wanted to hear what Nurse Chick sounds like, tune in. She's gonna keep her camera off, but she's gonna tune in and talk about Thor. She's met Thor in person. Thor's met Nurse Chick. We all went out to California last year to hang out with him and learn how to throw axes. But tune into that and open your hearts and open your wallets and help Thor out. If you guys don't want to donate to the GoFundMe, at least buy Thor's book, okay? You'll at least get something in return for that, and that will still help out Thor. And then tune into the podcast Monday. We're going to be going over 20 signs that your wife is losing attraction for you. If something seems off in your marriage or your relationship, you'll definitely want to tune in to see if it's one of those things is happening to you. Okay. We do have a couple of super chats here. Kamal with 249. Please sneak in Corey Wayne's name in Thor's book. Corey Wayne is not mentioned in Thor's book at all. So Aaron Clary should be happy by that. I'm going to give you, since Kamal's a beer club brother, I'm going to bump him up to the $10 super chat.
Thank you for the super chats. Movies bouncing, can't stop that. From the east to the west, you are the best. Keep those chats coming in, let's do it all again.
All right. And then John Egan with a $10 super chat. I'm with Kamal. A Corey Wayne Easter egg would be fun for those who know. Yeah. I mean, Corey's not one of Thor's, mentors, so he didn't mention it in the book at all. But I mean, I did say read the book multiple times, and that is something I learned from Corey. So it's influences in there. John is a beer club brother. I'm going to bump him up to the $20 super chat video.
Super chat, we'll see you there. Shake it, dance without a care. Send it love from everywhere. Groovy beats we all can share. Your support is so divine. Moving closer to the line. Thank you, you're the best. Party on, we never rest.
Erkin says, I think I'll start with buying his books. Which of Thor's do you suggest first? It's this one. I dropped it in the chat there. A Dominant Masculine Presence is his first book, and that's the one you need to read. And then if you get the other essential skills books, just do a search for the essential skills of a masculine presence, and you'll find the other books. And they will make more sense if you read A Dominant Masculine Presence first, because he lays out the 7 Ps, right? If you don't read that book first, at the end of all these essential skills books, we have a bonus chapter from Thor's original book, which is chapter 4, which explains the 7 Ps. So you don't have to, but it really would benefit you guys to read A Dominant Masculine Presence and then all the essential skills of a masculine presence series. I would highly recommend it. All right, that's all I got, guys. We will see you tomorrow on Glenn's channel, I guess.
This has been the Come On Man podcast. Now, go out and get it.